You were not born moral. You were born hungry, desperate, violent, and alive. The cries of an infant are not moral. They are demands. Your earliest instincts were pure expressions of need, not virtue. You screamed to get what you wanted. And if that failed, you learned to manipulate, to cry louder, to fake pain, to reach. And then they began to train you. Morality was not introduced as a choice. It was beaten into you, praised into you, shamed into you. Be nice, share your toys, say sorry, don't hit, don't lie. These weren't philosophies. They were behavioral leashes. You were told that being good made you a better person. But what it really made you was a more manageable product. You were easier to control, to punish, to guide toward the goals of others. From the first time you were rewarded for obedience, morality ceased to be about what is right and became about what is useful to authority. Those in power do not live by the rules they force upon others. They build those rules specifically to protect themselves from the chaos of the untrained. A population that believes in virtue, in fairness, in guilt. That population is easily ruled. If everyone hesitates before harming, but the ruler does not, the ruler always wins. This is the hidden structure of power. The masses are made to worship the same rules that the elite use only for performance. Religions have known this truth for thousands of years. The clergy declares that lust, wrath, and ambition are sins while cloaked in gold and surrounded by silks and obedient followers. Kings declare war while preaching peace. Politicians campaign on justice while profiting from injustice. Every system of control begins by convincing the masses that obedience is a moral act, and the more a person believes in morality, the easier it is to keep them compliant. They will police themselves. They will condemn others on behalf of the system. They will die for causes that do not serve them, believing it righteous. Laws were never about right and wrong. They were about predictability. A society with too many wild men is unstable. Too many ambitious minds and it fractures. Too many violent individuals and the ruling class becomes endangered. So, they built a code not to eliminate violence, but to control who is allowed to use it. Morality was invented to divide the savage from the servant, not to eliminate savagery, but to reserve it for the few at the top. A moral man is not free. He is restrained by principles he did not choose. He hesitates when he should act. He doubts when he should move. And worst of all, he shames others who do not live like him. He becomes not only a slave, but a warden. He upholds the walls that imprison him. He looks down on those who escape them. Morality does not elevate him, it neutralizes him. And those who benefit are not moral themselves. They are simply clever enough to realize that a righteous mob is far easier to manage than a chaotic one. Even in revolutions, morality is weaponized. The rebel leader tells the people they are fighting for freedom, for truth, for dignity. But once in power, the new regime adopts the same tactics, the same prisons, the same moral codes, because morality was never about freedom. It was always about structure, about utility. The slogans change, but the machine remains. The moral citizen pays taxes and feels pride. He obeys laws and believes he is civilized. He votes and imagines that he has power. But his morality was crafted to serve someone else's design. The more moral he becomes, the less capable he is of disrupting the system. Even when he sees corruption, exploitation, betrayal, he responds with outrage, not action. He writes, he protests, he forgives, he does not fight. His morality keeps him from it. He believes in nonviolence, in discussion, in process. Meanwhile, those in charge continue without pause, because they know that outrage within a moral man is fire trapped in glass. It glows, but it does not burn. If morality made men strong, It would be dangerous to those in power, but it does not. It makes them quiet, ashamed, self-correcting. It makes them hidden for their desires, suspicious of their instincts, obedient to invisible judges. It strips them of the will to take, to resist, to dominate. And so, it is not discouraged. It is enforced, celebrated, deified. The more moral you are, the more safely you can be exploited. You'll call it doing the right thing. While the blade is placed deeper into your back, the world does not reward the truly moral. It rewards those who appear moral. There is a crucial difference between being virtuous and looking virtuous, and it is in that difference that real power is hidden. You are taught that honesty is strength, that kindness will open doors, that fairness brings respect. But those who ascend to power do not practice these things. They display them selectively, like tools. The performance of virtue is a strategy. The practice of it is a liability. To appear moral is to control perception. And perception, not truth, is what moves people. Men follow what they believe to be just, not what actually is. They rally behind what seems noble, not what is effective. A man who lies with a calm voice and humble posture is trusted. A man who speaks a painful truth with cold eyes is feared or ignored. In the theater of power, optics win. Substance does not matter unless it can be shaped to resemble virtue. Consider the leaders you admire. Do you think their public image is a mirror of their private choices? Or is it a carefully curated performance? Their compassion is televised, their charity publicized, their apologies timed. Yet behind closed doors, they maneuver, manipulate, and betray without hesitation. They understand the truth. Morality slows down the hand, but the image of morality greases the wheels of trust. And trust, once earned, is a weapon more precise than fear. The most effective manipulators wrap their intentions in the language of ethics. When a nation invades another, it rarely does so by saying we want power. Instead, it invokes freedom, security, peace. It paints its bombs with the brush of righteousness. When a corporation exploits its workers, it speaks of opportunity, innovation, or unity. The mask of morality is not a disguise. It is a necessity. Without it, the masses would revolt. With it, they submit willingly. You see this even in your daily life. The colleague who smiles while undermining you, the friend who flatters while envying you, the lover who promises forever while planning their escape. None of them are moral. They are just skilled performers, and you trust them because they know how to simulate goodness. The real betrayal is not what they do, but how easily you fall for the act. Because deep down, you are not looking for truth. You are looking for moral signals. Signals can be faked. To act morally, consistently, and at all costs is to place yourself at the mercy of others. It is to announce that you will not lie, cheat, betray, or harm, no matter what is done to you. This is not nobility. This is advertising your weakness. Those who know the game will use your principles against you. They will push you into corners you cannot escape from without violating your code. And while you struggle with your conscience, they walk away with what they came for. The paradox is that the man who acts without morality, but appears to possess it, gains both the advantages of fearlessness and the social rewards of virtue. He is trusted, respected, praised while never burdened by the chains of conscience. The crowd admires what they think he is, not what he truly is, and he uses their admiration as a shield while he takes what he needs. He speaks of values and progress while privately negotiating betrayal. He wears the mask long enough that people defend him, even after he shows his true face. History has shown us again and again that those who succeed in dominating others are not the most ethical, but the most convincing. They do not walk into power with clean hands. They walk in with a clean smile. The tyrant who speaks of peace is more dangerous than the warlord who speaks plainly of conquest, because he disarms your skepticism. He makes you believe in the illusion, and by the time you see through it, it is too late to resist. Even religions, empires, and ideologies built on moral language are often rooted in conquest and subjugation. The more they speak of love, the more they hide their knives. The more they preach humility, the more they centralize control. Virtue, when spoken often, becomes camouflage. The loudest moralist is frequently the one who sins most privately. The moment morality becomes public spectacle, it ceases to be principle and becomes propaganda. You may believe that being truly moral is more difficult than appearing moral. But this is untrue. Anyone can be honest when honesty costs nothing. Anyone can be kind when it is convenient. The real challenge is deception. To maintain the image of goodness while acting in self-interest requires precision, memory, and psychological strength. It is a craft honed through risk and discipline. The liar who never gets caught is not lucky, he is trained. The pretender who is always believed is not blessed, he is strategic. In the end, people are not loyal to morality. They are loyal to consistency and charisma. If you appear moral long enough, you become untouchable, even when your actions betray your mask. People will explain away your cruelty, justify your betrayals, reinterpret your intentions. They will protect their idea of you rather than face the truth. And if you appear moral, you can do anything, anything at all. There is no virtue more paralyzing than the belief that you must always do the right thing. Morality, once embedded into your decision-making, does not sharpen you. It dulls you. The moral man cannot act with speed because he must first consult the invisible court in his mind. He delays, he considers, he evaluates consequences not for their outcome, but for their righteousness. And in that pause, sometimes only a breath, the moment passes, the opportunity slips away, the enemy strikes first. The world does not wait for you to be ethical. This hesitation is not wisdom. It is weakness manufactured to look like virtue. Morality wraps your instincts in red tape. When something threatens you, you pause. When someone insults you, you rationalize. When someone betrays you, you reflect. And by the time you are ready to respond, the damage is already done. You tell yourself that you are being noble by not reacting, that self-restraint is a higher path, but you are not on a path. You are on a leash, and those who understand this leash will pull it whenever they please. Those who are free from moral hesitation are never caught flat-footed. They do not ask whether an action is ethical, they ask whether it is effective. They act before the window closes. Their clarity does not come from virtue. It comes from the absence of it. They are not distracted by ideals, by the desire to be perceived as good, or by the fear of being condemned. They calculate based on advantage, not approval, and because they do not hesitate, they win. In the natural world, hesitation is death. The gazelle that pauses before running is the one that gets devoured. The predator that second guesses its pounce goes hungry. Nature does not reward reflection. It rewards action. But you have been trained to believe that your instincts are dangerous, that your immediate judgments are flawed, that you must double-check your gut against the morality you've been handed. Every time you feel the urge to protect yourself with force, to lie in defense of your future, to strike before being struck, you don't, because you're too busy thinking about whether it's right, and so you become predictable. Predictability is the most exploitable trait in human behavior. The one who knows how you will respond can always stay 3 moves ahead. Your hesitation becomes a blueprint for your manipulation. You think before you act, and while you think, the other side acts without thought. They anticipate your mercy. They depend on your inaction. They know that the more virtuous you try to be, the less dangerous you become. Even your silence becomes part of your collapse. You hold back truth because it might offend. You water down your language to remain palatable. You dilute your convictions so as not to appear harsh. But every time you hesitate to speak with force, someone else speaks in your place. And the world listens to the voice that arrives first, not the one that arrives pure. If your words are delayed by conscience, they are already irrelevant. This paralysis is evident in every institution built on moral ideals. Bureaucracies drown in ethics reviews while real threats move quickly. Democracies stall in moral debate while authoritarians seize momentum. Justice systems allow delay after delay in the name of fairness, while the guilty exploit every loophole. The more rules a system has, the slower it moves. The more it questions itself, the more vulnerable it becomes to those who do not. You see this play out in your own life every day. While you hesitate to send the message, to make the call, to take the risk, someone else does, and takes what could have been yours. You've been taught to believe that speed is recklessness. But this is a lie told by those who benefit from your slowness. The one who moves first does not always win, but the one who never moves always loses. And when morality is your first consideration, movement becomes impossible. You begin to require certainty in a world that rewards aggression. You want to be sure you're doing the right thing while the ruthless do whatever works. And when they succeed, you comfort yourself with the illusion that you are still better than them. But your better has no teeth. It only bites inward. You can't even defend yourself without guilt. When someone wrongs you, your first question is not, "How do I strike back?" but "Should I strike at all?" This is not peace. This is moral sedation. It strips you of the natural reflex to retaliate. And those who know you have this reflex removed will not fear harming you, because you have shown them in every hesitation that your conscience will always protect them more than it protects you. Hesitation is not caution, it is a ritual. You perform it because it has been drilled into your psyche that rushing is sinful, that aggression is uncivilized, that reacting too fast is primitive. But look around, the primitive dominate, the aggressive lead, the quick control the slow, and the hesitant suffer while telling themselves that at least they took the high road. But the high road is a path through the mountains of indecision, winding and slow, while others are taking shortcuts through the undergrowth, carving paths with machetes and taking what they want before you even arrive at the first bend. The truth is, you hesitate because you've been taught that morality is proof of superiority. That by considering every angle, by refraining from harm, by waiting to be certain, you are better. But being better in this way earns no reward. There is no prize for purity, no throne for the thoughtful, no crown for the cautious. The only thing morality ensures is that your hands remain clean while the world is taken by those who never cared about stains. History is not written by the virtuous. It is written by the victorious. The pages of civilization are filled not with tales of goodness, but of conquest. The statues in your cities, the names etched into textbooks, the holidays you celebrate, all of them are monuments to those who won, not those who were right. No civilization, no empire, no religion has ever survived on moral purity. They endured, expanded, and ruled because they understood that the sword writes faster than the sermon. What you call greatness is often nothing more than well-dressed brutality. The kings you admire built their kingdoms on blood. The revolutionaries you romanticize silenced dissent with fire. The explorers you idolize brought disease, subjugation, and plunder. And yet they are remembered with honor, not because they were ethical, but because they succeeded. Success rewrites character. Once a man wins, even his crimes are reframed as necessity. Even his atrocities become strategies. Even his betrayal becomes genius. The losers, regardless of how moral they were, are forgotten or pitied. Their kindness becomes irrelevance. Their restraint becomes weakness. Their values become footnotes in the narrative of those who had none. You don't quote them. You don't name your children after them. You don't raise flags with their crest. You raise the symbols of the ruthless and call it pride, because legacy is not built on intention. It is built on impact, and impact belongs to those who act without waiting for permission. In every conflict, the ones who win write the justification. The moral language of the aftermath is always a fabrication. When the victors explain their actions, they do so with words like liberation, progress, or peace. But these are retroactive veneers. They coat the bones of their enemies with the language of benevolence. They turn massacres into necessary evils. They turn invasions into defensive actions. And the world believes it, because it is easier to worship a clean winner than to face the truth of what winning requires. Even in personal life, your story is shaped not by how good you were, but by how effective you were. You can live your life with honesty, give generously, forgive easily, and act with compassion, and still be forgotten. But someone more ruthless, who plays the game with fewer rules and more ambition, will be remembered not despite their cruelty, but often because of it. People admire what works. They admire strength, dominance, confidence, because these are markers of survival. Morality, by contrast, is seen as fragility dressed in decency. There is a reason history celebrates empire builders, not monks. Caesar, not Socrates. Napoleon, not the pacifist. The builders of legacies understand that virtue is not a foundation. It is decoration. You build with force, with calculation, with domination. Only after the structure stands tall do you paint it with the brush of values, convincing the future that you were guided by something noble. But you were not. You were guided by results. The myth of moral progress is another fiction carved by the victors. When societies grow more complex, they claim to become more ethical. They speak of human rights, of justice, of equality. But none of these ideals emerge without blood. Every step forward is made by stepping over corpses. Women vote now, not because men suddenly became good, but because women fought, resisted, and suffered until their demands could no longer be ignored. Civil rights were not granted. They were wrestled from systems through force, disruption, and defiance. Morality was never the driving force. Power was. You believe that being on the right side of history matters. But history has no sides. It has editors. What survives is what serves the narrative of the winners. Even if morality temporarily guides an uprising, once power is achieved, those ideals are often discarded. What remains is structure, hierarchy, control. The same mechanisms as before, just with new names and slogans. Every movement that begins in virtue ends in bureaucracy. Every revolution devours its children. The hunger to be remembered, to leave a mark, is natural. But morality cannot provide that. It cannot protect you from oblivion. The gentle disappear. The patient go unnoticed. The compliant are buried quietly. But the bold, the ones who violate the rules, who seize control, who bend the world to their will, they become the chapters you study, the faces on your currency, the names your cities wear like armor, not because they were right, because they did not wait to be. The myth that history will reward moral integrity is a lie told to make you obedient. It convinces you that even if you suffer now, posterity will lift you up, honor your restraint, and remember your decency. But there are countless corpses beneath the ground who once believed that. Their stories were not told. Their virtues died with them because no one builds statues for the man who refused to fight. No one sings songs for the woman who forgave her oppressor. No one immortalizes the man who stood still while the world devoured him. What you call historical truth is propaganda aged into authority. Textbooks are weapons. Museums are curated myths. Documentaries are edited sermons. And each of them reinforces the same idea, that those who conquered did so for noble reasons. That those who fell simply lacked the strength to see the bigger picture. You consume these narratives every day and believe you are learning from the past. But all you are learning is how well the victors concealed their knives behind banners. Your desire to be a good person, to act with conscience, to leave a moral legacy, it is noble, but it is silent. It does not echo. It does not endure. You may die believing you did the right thing, but your memory will not carry it forward. It will be diluted, erased, or rewritten by those who lived with sharper teeth and faster reflexes. They will inherit the world. They will inherit your story, and they will tell it however it benefits them to tell it. When a man is strong, he does not speak of fairness. He does not plead for justice. He does not ask to be treated kindly. He does not need to. His strength ensures what he wants will happen, whether others approve or not. It is only the weak who cry for morality, because morality is the last weapon of those who have been stripped of every other. It is a beggar's language, a protest shouted from below, not a declaration thundered from above. It is the sound of submission disguised as virtue, a cry for help repackaged as high principle. Those who lack leverage appeal to the conscience of their oppressors, and that very act confirms their inferiority. When a man loses power, he begins to speak of ethics. When a nation weakens, it suddenly discovers the language of rights and dignity. The powerless speak of peace, not because they love harmony, but because they know they cannot survive war. The defeated ask for mercy not because they believe in compassion, but because it is all they have left to request. The oppressed may hold the moral high ground, but they lie in graves while the conquerors write the eulogies. The high ground does not preserve the body, it only absolves the corpse. The language of morality spreads fastest among the conquered. It gives them something to cling to in the absence of control. It offers a way to feel superior despite being dominated. We may have lost, they say, but we are still righteous. We may have been crushed, but we did not stoop to their level. This thinking is a consolation prize handed out by history to those it trampled. It is designed to soothe, not to empower. And so the defeated begin to wear their morality like a badge. Not realizing it has become a mark of their defeat. Even in social structures, morality is the preferred language of the bottom tier. Workers demand ethical treatment. Protesters call for justice. Victims cry for reform. But those at the top, the ones with wealth, status, and command, they do not engage in this dialogue unless it serves them. Their morality is strategic. Their ethics are selectively displayed, often when it makes them look benevolent or when they need to pacify dissent. But when the cameras are off, their decisions are made by one metric: preservation of control. The truth is, morality is most often used not as a guide for living, but as a weapon to shame others. The weak moralize to humble the strong, not because they believe the strong are wrong, but because it is the only way they can wound them. They throw the language of good and evil like stones at giants, hoping to trip them. But the giants have learned to simply step over the noise. Those with power do not worry about being called immoral. They worry only if the accusation gains traction. If it doesn't, they move forward unbothered because they know the difference between perception and position. You see this in personal life just as vividly. The man who cannot win the argument appeals to higher principles. He says it's not about winning, it's about doing what's right. But of course it is about winning. Every interaction is a contest of wills, even those cloaked in politeness. And the one who defaults to morality is the one who has already accepted loss. He changes the rules of the game mid-play because he is losing under the current ones. Morality becomes his retreat, his shield, his sanctuary, and it becomes a prison. In relationships, in workplaces, in politics, the same dynamic repeats. The moral one becomes the compliant one. The forgiving one, the silent sufferer, the appeaser. The person who avoids confrontation in the name of virtue, who endures injustice for the sake of peace, who restrains their ambition to avoid stepping on others. And what happens? They are overlooked, undervalued, and left behind, because the world does not reward those who avoid power games. It rewards those who master them. Morality is often weaponized by those who have no power and internalized by those who could have power, ensuring they never use it. The ambitious are taught that ambition is dangerous. The sharp are taught to dull themselves. The cunning are taught to feel guilt. It is not a coincidence. Societies are built to control the strong, not just the chaotic. And the most effective way to neuter the capable is to convince them that their very strength is immoral. It is why people who speak plainly are called cruel, why those who defend themselves are called aggressive, why those who take what they need are called selfish. These are not objective judgments, they are strategies. The powerless shame the powerful into paralysis, and often it works. The strong begin to question their own nature. They begin to hesitate. They begin to lower their voices. And when they do, they lose what made them strong in the first place. This is how morality turns into self-sabotage. You begin to believe that being a good person means sacrificing your instincts. You teach yourself to tolerate disrespect, to silence your anger, to defer when you should dominate. You call this maturity, you call it growth, but it is nothing more than weakness wrapped in language designed to make you feel noble. You start to believe that your suffering has meaning simply because it was endured morally. But morality does not sanctify suffering. It only prolongs it. When the world finally swallows you, you may be remembered as good. But what use is that? A good man whose goodness left him broken is still broken. A righteous woman whose righteousness got her erased is still forgotten. And the ones who destroyed them, they will stand on the wreckage and tell the story their way, using the language of victory, not virtue. You spent your life clinging to rules that were never made for your protection. You wore morality like armor, believing it would shield you from betrayal, from suffering, from insignificance. But armor rusts when you never step onto the battlefield. Your virtue became your cage. You called it character. You called it conscience. But it was compliance, obedience dressed in holy words. And while you paused to ask if something was right, others took everything from you without asking anything at all. You believed the world was governed by justice, by fairness, by truth. But justice is the name given to the spoils of those who won without it. Fairness is the illusion dangled before the docile. Truth is decided by whoever speaks last, loudest, and with the most force. You thought that by doing good, you would be remembered well. But the world does not remember the good. It remembers the bold, the brutal, the unrepentant. And now, what do you have to show for your morality? A spotless record in a world that worships scars. You swallowed your anger, you softened your edge. You forgave what should have been punished. You waited for justice like a priest waiting for rain in a desert of silence. And it never came, because justice, like morality, does not fall from above. It is taken, seized, shaped. There is no honor in dying righteous and irrelevant. There is no dignity in being devoured politely. The lion does not fear the sheep's ethics. The fox does not respect the rules of the henhouse. And the world does not mourn the man who always tried to do the right thing. Only the man who succeeded, by any means. You called your hesitation virtue. You called your self-doubt humility. You called your failure to act a moral choice. But it was none of those things. It was fear. Fear wrapped in philosophy. And that fear is the only thing the world truly punishes. Because in the end, it is not your goodness that defines your legacy. It is your power. So ask yourself one last time, and ask it without flinching. What did your morality buy you, except the right to lose quietly?